Hi, I'm Wouter Goedkoop, and you're watching the Webcomic Show with Daniel Barton, who's filming me right now.
Webcomic Show!
Hi, my name's Daniel Barton.
Webcomic Show!
Hey everybody, my name is Daniel Barton of the webcomic gooberandcindy.com, and you're watching the Spring Edition 2014 of the Webcomic Show. On the last episode, I had a contest for the 200th comic that I made, and the winner was Denny Fink of Twit True of the Moon. And here's a thank you art I did for him. Well, some of you may already know that I'm going to stop updating the webcomic gooberandcindy.com, and that means that this is going to be the last interview I do for the webcomic show. So the next episode will be my final farewell episode, and it will be me telling you guys about my experiences, some bloopers maybe, and even maybe a lost interview, and of course, me thanking you guys for all your support. So I reached out to a lot of webcomic artists if they would do a guest strip for me, and I would briefly like to thank them. Kim, Jerome, Nathan, Jack, Bearman, Tony, Peter, Wouter, Bill, Brandon, Colin, Mike, Tim, Michael, John, Brian, and last but not least, Lynn. There are still some people that are waiting for their submission, so I'll thank you in the future. While I've thanked those people, I would also like to thank Class 2A and 2B of the Northridge School in Mexico for their awesome animations. I would like to show you their animations. They created it for their technology class, and you can find more of their stuff in the link below. Now for the interview.
Hi, I'm Wouter Goedkoop, and you're watching the Webcomic Show with Daniel Barton, who's filming me right now.
3 weeks ago, I drove through Holland to visit the webcomic artist Wouter Goedkoop. Wouter and his family welcomed me into their home, and I even got to interview his kids, Mia and Ben.
Usually draw with pencil much.
Zo, en dan één kleur.
Color pencil?
Ja. Maar eerst
What's your favorite TV show?
Kous. Winnie de Pooh.
What's your favorite song?
Kous.
That's your favorite song?
Ook rock and roll. Mamma Mia.
Music.
Net als Mamma Mia Pizzeria. Oh, dat zegt Simon ook al.
What's your favorite food?
Pancakes.
Pancake. That's my favorite as well.
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter?
Almond paste.
What is they saying?
Almond paste.
Almond paste.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
it's
like peanut butter, but made with almonds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Riley's sitting back here.
This is it.
Oh, awesome.
Almond butter.
And what is your favorite color?
Red. Ook geel.
Yellow?
Ja, yellow too. Blue.
Blue? What about green? And pink? No pink?
Green.
And green?
Black.
Black? That's a nice color.
Brown.
Brown?
Guys.
Almost all the colors of the rainbow. What's your favorite thing to do with your brother or sister?
Playing football.
Playing football?
Ja. En tennis. En tennis, ja.
And what do you want to be when you grow up?
Oude man. Ja.
A vet.
A veterinarian.
vet.
And what do you think about your daddy drawing? Does he do it a lot?
Woo.
And what's your favorite drawing of your daddy?
Captain Wayne.
Captain Wayne?
Captain Vloep. Ze zijn dezelfde. Captain Vloep. Captain Vloep. Dat was het niet.
Now there needs to be explanation going with
Yeah.
that. Captain Floop was an invention of
John.
the first big fan of Captain Wayne is my godson, who is Mia and Ben's cousin, and he invented his own stories. So he invented the stories of Captain Floop.
We walked around the area, we ate some burgers, and then Wouter showed me some comic books and graphic novels he had in his collection.
Watchmen. I think most people know it, and if you haven't read it, you should. It's really quite incredible, especially in terms of layout and in terms of storytelling and how the whole thing is built. I read a lot of Iron Man, or a lot. I remember reading a lot of Iron Man comics when I was little, and this was one that a friend of mine brought back from. He was in London. He went to a comic book store. He brought it back for me because he knew I liked Iron Man. Calvin and Hobbes. Yeah, it's
No explanation needed.
no explanation. I think to our generation, it really speaks to us in so many ways. This is one that I got from my wife not so long ago. I think it was last year. When did I get this, Mia? Last year for my birthday. Yeah.
Ja.
Mia's read it twice already too. She really likes it. This, yeah, my wife got it because I talked to her in length of. We had this huge book my brothers had, which was a compilation of lots of Donald Duck stories, and it was, maybe the book was a lot smaller because I was little, but I remember the book being at least this tall. and it was really thick, and it had lots of stories in there, and a lot from Carl Barks, who was the guy who did these. And in terms of style and the dynamics of it, it's just it's gorgeous. It's really, really good stuff. I like it. Rosinski, who's a Polish artist, who lives in he lives in France. Actually, he doesn't live in Switzerland. So Torgal is a series that came out as I grew up. So I read these a lot when I was a teenager. Fantastic style. Enki Bilal is a French comic artist of Yugoslav origin. He is probably one that I enjoyed most reading as I grew up, and this is his latest book, which is slowly his style has changed a lot from being well, this really defined the science fiction in the 70s and the 80s in France, and his style really evolved over the years. And what he does now is it's closer to painting, drawing, and he approaches the way he builds his books is really quite different, because he's it's more like an image book with a story that goes along it. But I really, really like his craftsmanship. He's really he's got a very specific, very defined style that's been often imitated. There's more things that I read. I read a lot of Asterix and Obelix when I was a kid. Smurfs, all these Tintin, all these French comics a lot. This one is a compilation of a story that spans over 4 albums, and this is a great story. Really, really strong storytelling, writing. Also interesting because the style evolves a little bit throughout the book. It's high fantasy kind of thing. It's a fun read. Lots of characters. It's pretty complex, really. You really have to. I think it's pretty much representative of as we make them in Europe, so to speak. I used to have a subscription to a Mickey Mouse journal when I was a kid, a little bit like the Donald Ducks that they have in Holland here and everywhere across the globe. And they always had a double page of Flash Gordon and one of Mandrake, I think, as well. And so I bought this not so long ago, which is basically all the first couple of years, I think. Yeah, the first 2 years of Flash Gordon. I just love the style, and when you think about when this was made, which was in the early 30s, he started in 1934. It's pretty crazy. And it's fun stuff. So in a way, you could say, Captain Wayne's a bit of a mix of a lot of science fiction styles and things. Yeah, I've got more comics, but we only have so much time.
At the beginning of the interview, Wouter felt he'd missed some things, so here's a short description of the adventures of Captain Wayne. Captain Wayne and the Unexplained Dimension. First story. Published online from April 2012 until June 2013. Wayne is an experienced member of the captaincy setting, off on what looks to be a standard investigation. As his mission takes him to remote systems in the galaxy, the mysteries he unravels will change his beliefs and take him to the doorsteps of an unexplained dimension. Captain Wayne Volume 1 is a story about control, when to let go, and make the most of a sticky situation. Captain Wayne in Trouble on P-57 Exodus, second story, published online from August 2013 until now. Wayne, Ovidia, and Jock are nearing the end of an eventless mission on P-57 Exodus. Little do they know that their wishful hopes for action and drama are about to be addressed, as the remaining local tribes are about to clash and jeopardize the existence of their planet.
So, who's your favorite superhero?
My favorite superhero, if I had to pick one, well, there'd be a tough choice between Batman and Iron Man, actually. I guess it's kind of funny that my two favorite ones are the ones that don't have any superpowers, but I always liked, with Iron Man, I always liked the technology aspect, just the idea of some guy being able to put an armor on and be able to fly and that kind of stuff. That was always seemed pretty cool to me when I was a kid. And then later, when I was a teenager, I got into the Batman stories in a big way. And it was around the time that Miller's Dark Knight came out, and we also had the Tim Burton Batman movie, which I saw not so long ago, actually, and
Which is awesome.
It still holds up really well, I find. Yeah. And funnily, at the time was when I moved back to Holland with my parents. I was 17, and in the Telegraaf, which is a Dutch newspaper that's not very informative, maybe, but it's they had good comics in there at the time, and they were republishing all the Bob Kane Batman comics, so that was kind of cool too.
So, what's your favorite food?
Favorite food?
What's your favorite food?
It's not hamburgers, but I love hamburgers anyway. So my favorite food, there's a lot. I love spare ribs. Yeah, hamburgers pretty much there too. Yeah.
I'm gonna have a bite of this hamburger here.
Daniel Barton rating.
Pretty good. 6. Start out telling me about the Adventures of Captain Wayne.
The Adventures of Captain Wayne is a webcomic that I've been publishing online since April of 2012, and I started by publishing Captain Wayne and the Unexplained Dimension, which is a full-color, full-page comic that finished publishing in May of 2013. So all in all, it's about 60 pages long. And since August of 2013, I've been starting to publish another story arc, which actually takes place before the first one, and it's more in the form of a comic strip, and it's in black and white, and it's still published once a week. It follows Captain Wayne, who's a member of the captaincy, and he is sent on a planet called P57 Exodus, where along with two of his friends and colleagues, he basically supervises anything going on the planet as there's a major exodus going on, and we take it from there. And every week the story develops a little more, and we're about on we're going to hit strip 40 next week, and I suppose this current story arc will go on for at least another 80 strips or so. At the same time, I'm developing the second volume of another full-color, full-page comic, which is called Captain Wayne and the Mysterious Island, which is a direct follow-up to the first story, but that's still work in progress.
At what age did you start drawing?
I'm not quite sure. I remember, so that probably means that I started quite early. I remember drawing a lot at school. I remember around the age of 8 already having dreams about becoming an architect, so I was already pretty serious about drawing back then. And most of my youth I've always drawn in my free time, because at school it was never much of an option to draw a lot. I always had about a 1 hour a week drawing lesson, whether I was in grade 5 or in grade 10, that didn't make much of a difference. And so I always drew in my free time, and it started from there. So I've always been interested in drawing, and that just kept me going over the years.
Describe your drawing process.
My current drawing process with a lot of work I do now, so that's not just the current Captain Wayne comic, but also all the other projects I'm working on at the moment, involves I spend a lot of time doing concept design. My comic being sci-fi based, it involves drawing lots of spaceships and vehicles and all kinds of things that don't really exist. So it's one of the aspects I like most about making my comics is creating the whole world around it and the people that inhabit the worlds and the buildings, the vehicles, and whatnot. So I do a lot of doodling and sketching. I do that usually traditionally in sketchbooks using ballpoint or pencil. A lot of ballpoint. They're pretty rough sketches and doodles because they're only meant for me. I don't really show them around too much. As soon as I take things a little further, I start drawing digitally. I do a lot of sketching on tablet with an iPad. What I'll do sometimes is even sketch out the whole layouts on an iPad and then send it over to my computer. I now work with Manga Studio 5. And I start sketching then from there, from the rough straight digitally, because that's just the way my process has developed. I used to do a lot more sketching traditionally before I started working on the Cintiq, and the Cintiq has really changed a lot of things for me in that respect because it's got me sketching in a more natural way. And I can easily just start from scratch digitally, pencil my pages, and then start inking, and then proceed to the coloring process. Which my coloring process, while in the final product, it might not show as much, but it's really changed over the years since I finished Captain Wayne in the Unexplained Dimension. So even though the result maybe looks quite similar, the process is very different. So I've been struggling a bit with that, getting back on par using different software and to accomplish the same thing. So yeah, you could say that if I really wanted, my whole process could be 100% digital, but I still enjoy working traditionally.
How long does it take you to make a comic?
About 10 years, I would say. No, my first full comic, which is Captain Wayne in the Unexplained Dimension, it took me a long time because it started from just a very vague idea to just give me an excuse to start drawing again, and that was a long time ago. And from there, what had been an idea for a video game turned into an idea for an animated feature, which eventually I decided to take further as a comic book, because that's something I knew I could actually realize eventually. But for a long time, it was still just a project, just a way to draw often. And eventually I got to the point where I realized that I was in the position where I would be able to finish the book. So that gave me an extra kick, and I finished it fairly quickly from there. Right now, it's hard to say because my current project in the black and white strip is done with a small buffer, but anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks, and it's an ongoing project. So the story arc, I mean, at the pace it's currently going, if we're talking about 120 strips to tell the whole thing, it's going to be another year and a half before I'm done. So hopefully, I'd like it to bring it down to maybe be able to finish a comic in 2 years. That would be fantastic.
Who is your role model?
My role model? That's a pretty tough one. There's a lot of people that have inspired me artistically over the years. When I grew up, my dad had an art gallery, so I met a lot of painters and sculptors and people that were busy creatively in a lot of ways. So that was inspiring in a way. When I studied for my for high school, I studied art and design was one of my classes, and for that course we had to choose an artist that inspired us, so that we wanted to study, and I studied a lot of work from Raymond Loewy, who was a French designer from last century. He did a lot of designs in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. He was a Frenchman, but he really quickly moved to the States, and he designed a lot of things, ranging from graphic design work, like the Lucky Strike logo or other well-known logos. He designed streamlined trains, cars for Studebaker. He was really a man of many talents, and he inspired me in that way. And then later, before I went to college, I was very inspired by the works of Sid Mead, who was a designer that started working in the car industry, but quickly moved to doing a lot of industrial design as well, and did a lot of work in movies. And if any of you have seen Blade Runner, he basically designed about 95% of what's in the movie, whether it's cars or interiors and whatnot. And he also is somebody that throughout his career believed that you should be a designer of many things. You shouldn't just limit yourself to one field of the design profession. And that's something that inspired me throughout my career, because I started transportation design to end up working as a graphic designer, and now I'm making comics as well.
What advice do you have for webcomic artists just starting out?
I think the key to starting a webcomic project is making sure that you're honest with yourself and you're doing it for the right reasons. Now, the reasons are pretty different for each artist. Some do it to grow an audience. Others do it to become famous. Others try to do it to make lots of money. That's quite difficult. So make sure that you set yourself goals. They can be lofty goals, but they should be realistic, because you have to prepare yourself to be in it for the long run, because it's not just coming up with a miracle solution and just carrying it out. Like maybe you go to your job every day, and depending on what kind of job you do, you just carry out what you're doing, and you keep on going for X many years or whatnot. So I've noticed myself, drawing from my own experiences, that when I started my first book, basically developing it in the cave, in my own. It wasn't a cave; it was my attic, which is up there, and it was a very lonely process, because what I set out to do was to make a comic, because it was a long time dream of mine to do that, and something I was interested in. And at times I didn't lose interest, but it was hard to stay focused. And then when I was done with it, I didn't know what to do with it, so I decided to go online, and that generated the goals, I guess you could say, because first I thought, well, I'm gonna just post it online and grow an audience, and maybe there'll be enough people interested that I can do crowdfunding or something, or get it printed or something like that. And as I started posting it the first year, I realized a lot of things. I started working on the second volume. All kinds of things got in the way. And that's one thing you have to keep in mind, is that things never go according to plan. At least they didn't for me, and most webcomic artists that I know, it doesn't go that way for them either. So you never know what tomorrow has in store for you, and you know that's something that's worth keeping in mind, and that could be a good thing for me. It's definitely being a good thing because since even starting work on my second book, I've changed my workflow for X, Y, Z reason. One of the main reasons is that the software I was using was being discontinued, so that forced me to reconsider working differently. It also got to the point where I knew that I wasn't ready to post things online as quickly as I wanted, so I came up with a side project, which is the current comic that's running now. That's become a lot of fun and something completely different in terms of development and storytelling and drawing technique as well, because I'm experimenting with the black and white comic, which I'd never done before, and a format that's a little different from my first comic. So if you're willing to just embrace what's coming your way and making sure that you keep your motivation. And my main motivation is just to become a better artist. That's my main goal, and everything on top of that is a bonus. That can be getting people to read my comic, which is great, because now instead of having a book that just that I get print on demand, that sits there that a few family members look at, I know that there are a certain number of people all around the world that have read my comic, and for some of them it meant something, or it touched them in a way that I didn't expect, or anything like that. So all these things for me are pluses, because my main goal at the moment is just to become a better artist.
If you could go back in time 3 times in your life, where would you go?
3 times in my life?
Yes.
I think the first time would be when I moved back to Holland when I was 17. I'd lived in Switzerland for a number of years before that, in France, where I grew up. And I was at school. I was in very old-fashioned French system, where I had, this was 10th grade, so I was 16. I had 15 subjects, and they're ranging from French and German and English and mathematics and a whole bunch of other ones like geography and history and all those type of things, and drawing, and as it was called. We had a 1-hour class of drawing, and I tried to make it a little bit more interesting for myself, and I got really bad grades, not because my drawings looked bad, but because they were off subject or things like that. So I went from that kind of system back to Holland to a school that offered an international baccalaureate, which was kind of a new thing back then. But I only had 6 subjects, and I could choose them. Not all of them, of course. I had to take English, and I had to take math and things like that. But I could, instead of studying economics, which is something I did in Switzerland, I could do art and design. So all of a sudden, everything I'd always dreamed to do, I was allowed to do, and I got credit for it, and that was pretty. That in a way kind of changed my path, because without that, I think I would have just gone to business school or something like that, because that's the track I was on when I was still in Switzerland. So that's definitely something that's worth experiencing again. A second one would be, see, that's hard to choose, because I have to choose between things that have to do with comics, or things that have to do with my personal life. But I guess if you're looking at my artistic career and all that, it would have to be that when I was about halfway through my degree program at Art Center, we had Sid Mead come and do a lecture, and I got to meet the guy who inspired me to pursue studies in industrial design. So that was pretty interesting, could say, and pretty humbling when you see a person like that in real life, because you make yourself this image of this really successful designer who's worked for XYZ people, who's worked in Hollywood and everything, and he's the most down to earth man. He's humble. That was a great experience. The third one, I guess, it would be hard to choose between the day I met my wife or the day any of my two kids were born, because my family is very important to me, and I don't think I'd be making comics if it wasn't for my wife, because she supports me with it quite a bit.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
It's kind of like the genie question, isn't it? There's no good answer, because you're always forgetting about the one you should really be picking. I would say bend the space-time continuum to add more hours to the day. I think you know what I mean, because you have kids about the same age as mine, and we've talked about this today already. But that's definitely sometimes you feel that you want to add more hours to the day so that you can do more stuff. And I get that sometimes where one evening I'm working on my comics and I'm in the zone, and I look at the time and all of a sudden it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and I know I need to go to bed because I need to wake up the next morning to go to work, but I'm so in the zone. I just want to keep on drawing, and this inking is just going the way I want it. It's if I could do that, that would be handy once in a while. And then you could take extra long vacations too, so yeah.
What is your favorite childhood memory?
Well, you didn't prepare me for these questions. Favorite childhood memory? I don't know. There's a few. I think there's things that's, I don't know. There's a few, but one I've been telling my kids about a little bit because they've been watching Star Wars lately. I have vivid memories of watching Return of the Jedi, and we were on a trip. It was the first time we ever flew somewhere for a holiday. We always used to take the car because that was just what was affordable. And when I was 11, we took a trip to the States, and we went to see friends that we had there, and we traveled here and there. And I remember very well being in a theater in Massachusetts, and we went to see Empire Strikes Back, and that kind of that made an impression on me.
How do you relax?
I never do. No, I do. How do I relax? I'm a bit of a movie buff. I'm lucky enough that my wife and I have very similar tastes in movies, so we often watch movies together. And over the years, I've learned to relax doing stuff with the kids. So for the first time since I left the house when I was 19, now it's been 3 years that my parents live nearby again. So not every Sunday, but almost every Sunday, we take our bikes and we bike over to my parents. It's about a 7-kilometer bike ride, and we only do it if it's sunny. But we go over there. My dad has a garden. He's taken on a new hobby because he's always looking for things to do. So at 75 years old, he's become a beekeeper. So he does that, and we spend sometimes our Sundays over there, and we have lunch with the kids and everything, and that's just something that is completely different from doing comics, completely different from my day work, completely different from being stuck in traffic jams. It's a nice way to relax, and once a year going on holiday is a good way to relax, although sometimes it's not as easy as you'd expect, but yeah. So doing stuff with the kids is always great, and sometimes it's crazy, but most of the time it's just relaxing and we're having fun.
Who is the most famous person you've seen with your own eyes?
The most famous person I've seen with my own eyes. Well, it was Sid Mead. Well, if you consider going to concerts, yeah. Well, what was it? That was a while ago already. It was, I think, 4 years ago. I went to see Journey in concert in Amsterdam, and I've been a long time fan of Journey, so that was good fun. And but then you're not really seeing them in person because they're on stage and you're down there. So I would say the most famous person I've seen. I guess Sid Mead, because I actually got to talk to him, so it doesn't get much better than that.
So I kind of already know the answer to this one, but I'll ask it anyways. Which celebrity do you respect the most and why? Okay. As unlikely as I would have answered this, I don't know where this is coming from exactly, but it is somebody I admire. For example, Will Smith I admire quite a bit because of his career path, because of course, you don't know a person really like that, such high profile, but you go by what you get from the media and whatnot. He seems like he's got a lot of integrity. I like the fact that he was able to have a music career in a music genre that seems to require swearing, but he did it without. Yeah, I think anybody who has that kind of lifestyle and who works in Hollywood and can be married that long and have kids, that does force a little respect, I think. What is the most embarrassing moment in your life?
Now, my background, I was born in Holland. My mom is Swedish. I grew up in France and Switzerland, so my first language is French. My wife is from Canada. I've only been living in Holland for 14 years now, but there's a lot of things about Dutch culture that I don't know as well as Dutch people. So for some reason, my brother at our wedding tried to have us sing the Dutch national anthem. And so I had to call to our rescue. So that's me and my wife. My wife had just been in Holland for 5 years. So to our rescue, we called Riley's boss, who was there, who was Dutch. And thank God she knew how it went. And I got my boss to come along and sing with us because he's Scottish and his Dutch is really bad. I thought, so that was pretty embarrassing. But there was only 80 people there, so that wasn't too bad.
Speed around. Favorite drink?
Wine.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Favorite genre of music?
Blues.
What's the weirdest or nicest place you have ever woke up?
Nova Scotia.
If you could only draw one last thing, what would it be?
Wow. My wife.
Wouter, thank you for coming on the Webcomic Show.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching this special 2014 spring edition of the Webcomic Show, and be sure to tune in for the next final farewell episode. Be sure to follow me on Facebook and Twitter at Goober and Cindy, and make sure you check out the website gooberandcindy.com for the new guest comics. See you next time.
Webcomic Show!